A disturbing story and galvanized public awareness about the climate.
And now to a new report on global warming from a prestigious panel of scientists convened by the UN.
There's a new grim report out today from
this comprehensive report in 2007 took it to another level. Scientists from 30 nations concluded that global warming is unequivocal and that human activity is mostly the cause.
Countries went over it. It is the definitive report on global warming, and it's frightening.
I call upon the Peace Prize laureate for 2007, Al Gore, to
the UN scientists and former Vice President Al Gore would share the Nobel Peace Prize. The cause had a consensus and a credible leader. The skeptics would take on both.
I think Al Gore was probably
not just an economic issue or an environmental concern. This is a national security crisis.
The national call to action from just 4 years ago has vanished.
Global warming demand our urgent attention.
I think the risks of climate change are real, and that you're seeing climate change. I think human activity is contributing to it.
We don't always see eye to eye, do we, Newt?
No, but we do agree our country must take action to address climate change.
Why would you ever do a commercial with Nancy Pelosi?
That was really stupid.
Do you believe global warming, man-made global warming, is real?
I believe we don't know.
We don't know.
On Frontline, in the last election, few seemed to doubt that climate change was real.
Climate change poses a growing danger.
The risks of climate change are real.
But today, a successful campaign has been waged to introduce more than a shadow of doubt.
This massive global conspiracy.
If you pay scientists enough money, they'll find what you want them to find.
They are cooking the data.
How did it happen, and who's behind it? Frontline investigates Climate of Doubt. Watch on air or online beginning October 23rd.
Scientific illiteracy makes us vulnerable to junk science, and there is plenty of junk around. Which brings us to the global warming debate. Lots of junk there.
Scientists just figure that some other scientist knows what the heck they're talking about. Even if you pay scientists enough money, they'll find what you want them to find. The only consensus is that we probably have some influence on climate. Big deal.
Have gotten to the point where people just don't want to listen to science.
How did it happen?
Connection at all.
Do you think the science is being hyped on global warming?
Oh, very definitely, yes.
Right now. And he said 2 weeks ago, I don't believe the vast majority of the climate scientists think the debate is over. This is a clear statement by the guy who's in years now and listening to this, and I know the distinguished senator from Vermont wants so badly to believe that the science is settled and that anthropogenic gases cause global warming, and the science is not settled. I mean, Phil Jones is the scientist at IPCC. He's the top guy. He was the one at East Anglia that came up where it's kind of the clearinghouse for all the scientists who's under investigation.
You might know there remains considerable uncertainty over just how sensitive the climate system is to our greenhouse gas emissions. Being caused by the CO2 we've put into the atmosphere is not nearly enough to explain the warming we've seen in the last 100 years. There must be also some sort of natural warming mechanism involved. And this is where the IPCC process has failed us. The IPCC has been almost totally silent on potential natural explanations for global warming, totally ignored the 800-pound gorilla in the room, natural, internal, chaotic fluctuations in the climate system.
If you think at the moment the ice cap in the Antarctic is as big as it's ever been, the planet, since the Big Bang, has been going in and out of cold, hot, wet, dry.
Now, I'll come back to you, Nigel. Let's just hear from some members of our audience. You, sir, over there.
Wasn't the second part of the question?
I think we're slightly missing the point here. I think if you went to the Philippines and asked the people affected by this and say, you know, what's the single most significant thing we could do to perhaps help them survive it, help their family members survive it, they're not going to be saying, you know, carbon tax and climate change. They're going to be saying, help me.
It means people losing their jobs and their future.
About global warming, I don't believe in it. It's absolutely rotten, and Julia is a rotten liar.
And now a special address from the President of the United States on global warming.
Hello, America. It's me, your president, your commander-in-chief of the world. And I'm here at my ranch here in Crawford, Texas, just just taking a little R&R, you know, relaxing, growing out my soul patch, playing a little frisbee golf with Condi Rice and Dick Cheney, having a good time, but still keeping my eye on the ball. And there's an issue that has come to my attention, the issue of the so-called global warmings that are happening on our planet. For centuries, the rays of the sun have warmed the surface of our Earth's crust. And apparently those rays are intensifying in such a way that it's increasing lava flows. And
Cut.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Global warming is an issue that my administration is very concerned about, deeply in a deep kind of concerned way. It's I start my day and I think about the warming of the globe and how we can get it warmer. Hey, later. I'm sure by now you've all heard what liberal scientists are trying to say. It seems that that liberals and godless tax raisers are trying to make me look bad by using such things as facts and scientific data.
Cut.
What?
Mr. President, you can't say they're using facts.
Right.
Because facts are real. They're not disputed.
How do you know that? What kind of book is this? Jeez. Why didn't you tell me it was a pop-up book? Those things scare the crap out of me.
I don't think that's the kind of science book we're looking for. We're talking about global.
Well, what kind of science book would you suggest?
There's a lot of books.
One filled with facts, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. I bet you'd like that.
They spent huge sums of money in a campaign of major disinformation that had an impact, had a profound impact. And it has now made many people in public life very gun-shy because they're afraid of having those amounts of money spent against them.
A Republican who once thought he was a safe incumbent in his solidly red state.
You know, I'm a pretty conservative fella. I got a 93 American Conservative Union rating, 100% Christian Coalition, 100% National Right to Life, A with the NRA, 0 with the ADA, Americans for Democratic Action, a liberal group, and 23 by some mistake with the AFL-CIO. I demand a recount. I wanted a 0.
But Inglis does accept the scientific consensus on global warming and favors legislation to curb the effects of CO2 in the atmosphere. He faced a Tea Party rebellion in his primary.
I've had a big tent gathering in Spartanburg County. Bunch of Republicans underneath a great big tent. Comes a question to me, yes or no, do you believe in human causation on climate change? Well, I had a bad habit of answering questions, so I said, yes. Boo, hiss comes the crowd. I was blasted out from underneath the tent. And so, I mean, there were a couple 300 people there. I mean, it was intense. There we are.
He was pounded in commercials and on talk radio.
It became a...
Against the backdrop of all the pressure from skeptic groups, Congress ordered a comprehensive review of climate change research by the National Academy of Sciences. The findings came back even stronger on human-caused climate change, and a subsequent study showed 97% of active climate scientists agreed.
What's settled here on climate change?
Virtually every place on Earth is warming up, and people who've tried to go back and scrub the data, like is there a mistake with the way they're making these measurements, they've all concluded that no, the people who are doing this work at the key places around the world are agreeing with each other.
What's the bottom line, though, on human-caused global warming? I raised my hand in a high school science class, and you're the teacher. Are humans causing the global warming we're seeing? What's your answer?
Mostly, yeah. Scientists are trying to shoot it down all the time, and years and years and years, nobody's been able to. So at some point, you have to say, maybe it's right.
All the naysayers and all the people who say climate change isn't happening, that sea level isn't rising, so it's got to be...
Which makes it look like you're just one opinion.
Yeah.
Which means you've lost.
Well, for the moment. There's the tester right there. That ocean will dictate what happens. The ocean's going to win.
high temperature records broken by the 100.
There is now no concerted national response to climate change.
Worst wildfire season in Texas.
And delay, the scientific community says, is what the planet simply can't afford.
Climate change is coming. It means drought, it means fire, it means suffering.
The entire climate is changing. It's affecting our energy, our water, our agriculture, and our health.
Drought has forced it to drink from its last reserves.
The amount of sea ice on the Arctic Ocean in 2012 was a record low.
Monstrous heat wave.
We'll all have to start getting used to this kind of thing.
The problem with climate change is that I think to many Americans it has seemed like a threat not to living generations but to future generations. And with that uncertainty and with the economic climate that we are in, Americans have been unwilling to impose a tax on themselves in order to protect generations as yet unborn. It may be that over the next 10 or 15 years, Americans will reconsider the ideas that were propounded by these campaigners, that there's a lot of doubt about all of the tenets of this science, and follow a different kind of intuition, which is that this is here with us now.
As a climate scientist, I think a lot about the future. It goes with the job. And I want to make sure that in 50 years or 100 years or 200 years, nobody can ever say we didn't warn them.
What can we do to reduce the risk of further disasters?
Well, all you've done, Berman, is argue about whether it exists, so getting on to the actual doing something about it's going to be slightly more difficult.
Good thinking. Paul Kennedy.